Hello and welcome to another episode of Pass the Syrup. This is the estate agency podcast for estate agents by estate agents. The reason it's called Pass the Syrup is because we like to pass the syrup around and pour it over some of the waffle floating around the world of estate agency. I always say estate agency. I think of estate agency as sales and lettings. I appreciate it's estate and letting agency. So if you're watching this, you'll understand from the background and the fact that there's only me on screen that today is going to be a little bit different. If you're listening to this, I am currently sitting in a hotel room. I've been impacted by the recent air traffic control debacle in the UK. And so we are due to fly back from our family holiday. We've just been at a friend's wedding in Cyprus and we can't get back. So the show must go on. It's requiring a little bit of tweaking to what we're doing. So it's just me and my trusted microphone, which travels most places with me. What a sad state of affairs that is. And my camera. And so today, actually, this is okay. It's not going to be a long episode, but I think it's a worthwhile episode. It's episode 15, which means it's the 15th week we've been running this podcast. Now, the podcast is part of something bigger. It's called Agents Movement, MVMT, abbreviation for movement. In today's modern era, you've got to look for the social media handles that are available, and Agents MVMT was available. And so we've gone with Agents Movement. What is Agents Movement? Well, I don't know exactly what it is yet. Actually, it's a really, really simple answer. What I do know is that estate agency is a tough game. This industry can be testing, challenging, even when times are good, even when the market is buoyant and there's lots of positivity. We all know that it comes with its pressures and its stresses, be it deal management, be it client management, be it just the inner workings of a estate agency being such an archaic and strange system that we've had in existence for such a long time that we haven't brought forward into the modern era. It's a tough gig, right? And so the last couple of years, extraordinarily challenging, I'm sure in all industries, but my industry is property. And so I've seen firsthand how tough it's been for some people. We've had people enter the world of estate agency the last few years, sort of that post-COVID boom era where everyone thought that, especially those new to industry, that this is what estate agency is. Those of us a little bit more cynical, been in the world of agency a little bit longer, know that life isn't all upward motion in terms of property pricing, and there is going to be a balancing off period. So guys new to the industry, probably finding the last year particularly challenging. Maybe not so familiar with lead generation work and how to generate opportunities to new business, where maybe over the sort of the 2 years prior things have been landing in their laps. And just to be clear, I'm not portraying this as a negative. Things land in your lap, that's great for you. If you start in business and you've got references, referrals, family, friends, people who want to sell, that's absolutely brilliant. But at some point that lead source starts to slow down and you need to generate other opportunities. There's, of course, the guys that have come out of the corporate world or maybe out of business world into independent business ownership. But of course, I think all too often we get sucked into talking about people that have started in business, people that maybe own their own business. People use the term corporate as though it's a negative. I started in I would call it sort of a mini corporate, if you like. Had a corporate feel, wasn't really a corporate business actually. And I learned a lot in that business. It wasn't my favorite place to be, but I wouldn't speak negatively about it. I learned a lot about structure and how different things work. And maybe there wasn't quite the one-to-one interaction and the coaching and development that you might get at a smaller independent business. But the reason I talk about corporates is because a huge chunk of the estate agency world is made up of people that work in corporate structures, but are not part of senior leadership teams. And I think that section of the estate agency world is the most what's the right language here, underserviced in terms of interaction, coaching, mentoring. Training is a bit specific, but sort of communication as to what's going on in the world of estate agency. You look after your management team, your senior leadership team, your business owners. It's absolutely their responsibility to know what's going on in the world. But as a young agent, a while ago, not last week, maybe 20 years ago, approaching that, I probably wasn't fed information about what's going on in the wider world of estate agency. Maybe it's my responsibility, or as a mid 20-year-old to do that. Early 20s. But yeah, it wasn't something that I was in tune with, and it wasn't something that my leadership team, my manager, encouraged. And I wonder if that's the same today. So long-winded, bit of waffle there, actually. which is exactly what this podcast is meant to push back on. But the point of Agents Movement is to really, I think, service the entire estate agency world in terms of information, communication, and help. If that sounds cheesy, that's okay. Occasionally, a bit of cheese is okay. I think we can all do a little bit more to probably improve the consumer sentiment piece. I think we could all help drive up standards, but we're only as my dad used to say, you're only as good as the worst driver on the road. You could be the best driver out there, never going to have a problem. But you always be conscious that somebody else could be an idiot. And no matter how good you are watching this, it's people around you that can give the business a bad name. Some of it's a moral issue, and that we'll probably never get over that. Every industry has people whose moral compass points in the wrong direction. But what I'm talking about is actually helping people that want to do better and giving them access to what they need to do better. Now you have professional coaches and trainers, and we do the Agents Together feature every week on here. But actually, what I hope Agents Movement becomes is something more than that, and not to take away the role of trainers and people that are sort of professional third-party suppliers to the world of estate agency. But I think we can provide access at a larger scale to people that need that support. We all know great businesses are obsessed with learning. They just are. They're constantly adapting, constantly trying, refining what they do, looking at new ways of operating. We see new models entering the estate agency world quite a bit, actually, I would argue, over the last few years. The online hybrid model, which is, sort of a funny term. The current self-employed model, which also is a bit of a funny term, actually, where a self-employed agent, lots of business owners 10 years ago would have regarded themselves as, I think, self-employed agents with a team. So there are different models. The brokerage model currently really popular in other areas of the world is sort of breaking into the UK, I think. Are we at a point where there's going to be a transition from one to the other? I think we're always in a period of transition, actually, just like the estate agency world that we service, the property world that we service, the consumers that we service. There's always some sort of transition going on. Nothing is ever stagnant. And so my hope is that we can find a way to service everyone, to help everyone. This podcast is just one small piece. It's the first piece. It's the, I hope, the lighthearted, mildly entertaining piece that might capture a few people that up until recently weren't that hot on what's going on in the world of estate agency. They know their own world. It's quite a, I use the term quite often, it's quite a insular business. You know what's going on in your business. If you're part of a wider group, hopefully you get some communications from the wider group. You know what's going on in your room, in your business, in your department. And as a business that should be obsessed with communication, sometimes we forget that and how important it is with the people around us. And I think we can do a lot to really use this podcast as a stepping stone to engage people that may not want to read the trade press. And so I'm not anti-trade press. I've been critical of large scale media, but I appreciate that in today's modern society, it is very difficult to capture people, to interrupt the flow. The scroll never stops. I think it's Monsters Inc. The line is, it's very, modern children don't scare easily anymore. Disney movie, anyone who's got young kids will appreciate that. But that's right, modern kids don't scare easily, just like modern adults don't stop the scroll very easily. It needs to be something that really reaches out and grabs you. And so the headlines become more exaggerated and more extreme, and especially around property and especially around the economy. And I don't like it, but I do understand why it happens, because there's so much news out there. There's so much content out there that it needs to really grab you. So I think some people are turned off by that. I think there's an opportunity for us. And when I say us, I mean the estate agency world. It sounds a little bit Dalai Lama, maybe, but could we all do it together? Yeah, we could, actually. And there's a few things that I've learned in the last 15 weeks from doing this podcast. I'm a part of lots of different groups in the estate agency world. My business, I used to have an independent estate agency called Thorgills. Proud of that business. We exited that business about 18 months ago. I had a filing country license, something similar to a franchise, for a year or two before exiting, 2 or 3 years before exiting. And now I'm sort of fully, from an estate agency perspective, a filing country operator. So I'm part of a large group, 320 locations worldwide. So I get lots of good interactions as part of that group. And I attend different things. I'm part of the Property Academy, which is a group of absolutely exceptional agencies. I go to the Bulldogs monthly directors dinner and see good and great agents there. It's not all about being good agents though, or even great agents. It's just meeting agents in Property Academy. I'm sure there are what's a polite way to say it? It's probably some mildly average agents that are on the trajectory to being great agents. It's not about great, good or bad. It's just about agents meeting, interacting. So I'm part of different groups, and I think I've got a not unique, but a pretty good understanding of what's going on in the world of agency, and a good understanding of how people communicate with their teams, and what's been two things. Podcast is, I just started to say this, the podcast has shown me, it's proven to me that estate agents can work together. Every week we have 3 guests on, always estate agents, and they always get on. Absolutely, no question about it. And with the exception of maybe 2 guests so far, everyone, I think, has been pretty genuine. They've given their honest opinion. They've given each other honest feedback. If they've disagreed, they told each other they disagree, but you can professionally and politely have different opinions. That's a big part of this world. You know, actually, as a society, we're so worried about offending people anymore that when someone does something wrong, there's no chance for them to feel bad about doing something wrong because we're not allowed to let them feel bad about doing something wrong. So what's been really, really nice to see is differing opinions. Also, though, I can think of a particular episode where I had 3 people who are, I would describe as highly opinionated, slightly more mature agents. And I thought, this is going to be fireworks. You'll recognize them from social media and being experienced agents and faces within the industry. And actually, there wasn't fireworks. You know why? Because great agents know what needs to be done, how it needs to be done. And these 3 guys pretty much to the nail agreed on what needed to be done. In fact, they probably scared away some of the younger agents with their feedback on how to deal with switching off in the evening. All 3 of them pretty much said, if you don't like it, don't do it. Which, you know, a bit tough for some. But again, another movie quote, SWAT. I can't remember the quote, actually. But something along the lines of, Summit's a job, SWAT's a career, or something along those lines. Someone, please, in the comments, tell me what that correct quote is. But this is a calling, right? Estate agency is a calling. It's 24/7. It never stops. Christmas Day, you do what you need to do to get a deal done. People think, oh God, that's awful. Well, no, that's what agency used to be. I love that that's what agency still is today. I've got downtime, except right now it's 3:30 in the afternoon. I'm meant to be with the kids in the pool. I appreciate we're delayed, but that delay is happening tonight. But I should probably be enjoying the last few hours. But this is interrupting. But that's okay. That's life. That's, you know, that's the world we live in. You've got to work sometimes. Although this isn't work, it's a hobby, clearly. So back to what agents movement could be, should be, I hope it will be. It's agents getting involved. It's agents helping agents. It's a community without sounding too cheesy. Again, use the word cheesy a bit, without sounding naff. I've seen in all these different groups that I've talked about and all the, you know, my nearly 20 years in agency, what it used to be in terms of how we got along with each other versus what it is now. Completely different world. In the past, I've been quite anti-social media, although I'm, you know, reasonably prolific and I see it as an exceptional tool for business. I think social media has really brought agency along. I think it's really speeded up and was probably a necessary tool to get great agents networking and communicating together. I bring people onto the podcast. They've never physically met, but they're social friends. And I can say the same about the vast majority of them that I've know. Probably half the people who've been on face to face, half the people never met before, only know them based on their social media profile. But everyone gets on well, as I said earlier on. Everyone has an opinion, a good opinion. It's not about a right or wrong opinion because it's just an opinion and you're all allowed your own. But I think it's important to give these opinions. Something I say quite often is, because this is an insular business and when things get tough, everything becomes a bit internal. You don't get things out there. You don't talk to them. And, you know, I don't like to take things home and talk to my wife and tell her what the issues we're experiencing in the business are. I'm lucky in this current business, I have business partners. And so we can talk about anything we need to. But lots of people don't have business partners. And for years, I didn't have a business partner and you would just bottle it up. Where do you go to appreciate that the problem you think is yours is not actually yours? The problem you're dealing with right now has been dealt with many times in the past and it will be dealt with many times in the future. We're all going through the same issues. That is the game. It is tough. It is a business that requires extraordinary resilience. But when it's good, it's great. Most of the time, I think it's quite fun. It's just the outside factors. It's when politicians make major mistakes that impact the entire economy. It's when ridiculous headlines fuel some of the sentiment that drives commercial decisions, or consumer decisions might be a better language there. So it can be tough, it can be challenging, but I think the more we talk, the more we communicate, the more we help each other, Agents Movement could be something really, really valuable to the industry. We're starting with this podcast. We're going to continue this podcast. I really, really enjoy doing the podcast. Some of the feedback I've heard from people that have appeared on this podcast is it feels like therapy. It never lasts more than an hour and a half. And at the start, when we set up to record, I explained to everyone it'll be a maximum of an hour and a half. And I can see in their eyes, everybody thinks an hour and a half is a long time. And then at the end of the recording, most weeks, someone says, I can't believe it lasted that long. It didn't feel that long at all. Because, well, firstly, agents like a chat. We all know that. We like a natter. We're all the same. That's fine. That's a good thing. We're people. But also, we're talking about quite often important subjects that may impact agency or the world of agency now or in the future. And people that care, that really care about this industry, they have an opinion and they want to express it in the right way. And I think by expressing those opinions in the right way in this forum, it reaches people in a different way. I think most of us, and I don't want to make an assumption here. My first business had a reason, what I would regard as a reasonably large team, 50 to 60 people at one point. And I know hand on heart, having surveyed, having appraised all of those people, having recruited all those people myself, only a handful wanted to be agents from a young age. The vast majority, I'm talking in excess of 90% of people, fell into the world of estate agency. And I think, the people I speak to, and we have these sort of conversations, it's the same for most people. Not many people grow up wanting to be an estate agent. If you look at how well estate agents are trusted, your parents don't say, I want my kid to grow up to be an estate agent. Estate agents might say that about their kids, and maybe my 3 daughters might grow up to be agents one day. But we sort of fall into it. I think we fall into it because we don't know what we want to do, and we're maybe capable salespeople, good communicators, good service providers. We're driven, we're maybe tenacious, we're enthusiastic about getting the job done. We're workaholics quite a lot of the time. These are just some of the things I think you need to be a successful agent. But there's the other thing that most of us, not all of us, but lots of people I meet in agency are not, haven't gone into higher education. I left school, different jobs. I started my A-levels, decided to move away from them. I picked A-levels that my parents wanted me, I think, to do. Maths, history, economics, and IT. That sound fun, right? That's some exciting stuff right there. Although, as it happens, I didn't dislike those subjects. But the education route wasn't for me. I guess sales is a bit more vocational. And I think actually that's one of the issues we have, that as estate agents, we don't educate or enjoy being educated in the same way that the historic education system works. That's maybe why a lot of us have found our way here. And I think actually, don't get me started on the subject of our education system, with 3 young daughters working their way through it at the moment. I think it's absolutely due an overhaul and needs to be looked at, because it doesn't work. It's not effective. It's forcing young children to do things that are completely not appropriate, which sounds, it sounds like too harsh language, but 7-year-olds being given a lot of homework, for me, is crazy. Children should be enjoying their time at school. But back to us, I think a lot of us, you couldn't put me in a classroom. That's not how I would learn, even now at 40 years old. So we have to find a different way. And so I started this podcast 15 weeks ago. So it'll be an entertainment-led, light-hearted look at what's going on in the world of estate agency. That doesn't mean it can't be educational. It's just a different way of educating. And I think that's the trick. Can we use trick? Does that sound negative? Can we use this platform to help educate? Can Agents Movement help bring the world of estate agency forward? Can it be a movement that moves the world of estate agency forward without ramming it down people's throat? I've produced so much educational content, and looking back on it, some of it was pretty dull because I'm looking at the old way of educating as opposed to maybe the new way of educating. Can a fun, interactive, interesting conversation actually educate people? Of course it can. And it can also inspire people, and it can also make you laugh. And that's okay. That's good. That works. When times are tough, I want to laugh. When times are good, I want to laugh and I want to learn. But actually, when times are tough, of course, I want to learn as well. We always want to be learning to move forward. So I want to have great people as a part of this movement. If you want to be a part of this movement, please reach out, get in touch. We always need agents to come on. Quick note for the suppliers watching this. Suppliers, I do mean suppliers to the world of estate agency, third parties, contractors, you sort of guys. You all know who I'm talking to because you email me all the time saying, I would love to be on it. We've got conveyancers, we've got prop tech, we've got every man, woman and their dog asking, can they be on? This is not the right platform for agency suppliers. This is an agents run for agents. There will be something though around the corner, because I know, hand on heart, there are so many great products out there in the world of estate agency that could help agents move forward that, let's be honest, most agents don't even know about. I mean, I've just mentioned, or earlier on in this podcast, discussed that lots of agents don't actually know what's going on in the world of agency, let alone the world of this is how you improve your agency with support and tech and all those sort of things. So there's definitely something there. Again, not ramming product down people's throat or forcing people to learn in an unpleasant way, but there's absolutely something there to help people improve their business, find efficiencies, maybe grow their business, maybe allow them to make more time off from their business by leveraging support that's out there. So really, really strange podcast episode that was week 15. So we've had, we only currently broadcast on YouTube. We've had about 4,000 views. We've only got 100 subscribers. We've got an Instagram channel. I'm not sure how many people are on that now. We need to actually start to run that properly. That's the Agent Movement Instagram channel. We've got the Agents Movement YouTube channel, and then the podcast series, Pass the Syrup. 4 guests every week. We've got 4 guests lined up for the next few weeks. And we're always going to be talking about industry-related content. We are going to flip things up, though. We're going to go from doing several news pieces to one major news piece each week. And we're going to have a bit of fun. We're going to pull on something we've seen on social media and have a bit of debate about whether we agree with that, because we have some really opinionated agents out there that put up some cracking content that sparks debate. And that's what we want, a bit of debate, a bit of fun, a bit of a he said, she said, I don't know if I agree. So we're going to go to news piece. We're going to go to a social piece. We're going to continue to work with agents together because I think it's a really, really important charity. Of course, we have Mr. Watkins, and we've got a few other little things that we're going to add. But really, I wanted to thank everyone for your support so far. Initially, I was inundated with messages of support, which was amazing. And then now on a weekly basis, I get a handful of messages saying, listen to the podcast, really like it. Just nice messages. People asking to appear. Please continue to ask to appear, because we do need 3 guests every week, and that in itself is a bit of an undertaking to arrange that. Trade press, I want to thank specifically Property Industry Eye and Estate Agency Today, because you guys cover us pretty much every week, and that gets a lot of eyes on. That's quite often the pieces covered by the trade press are the most read pieces in that week. We're covering things, what do these things have in common? Interest rates, Rightmove, purple bricks. They're covered on this podcast, and they're hot topics. They're things people have opinions on. They're things that you guys want to hear about. They're things I think you guys want to talk about. So if you want to talk about them, send me a note and let's get involved. So finally, I just want to say thank you so much. Strange episode. Next week, absolutely back to normal. Me plus 3 guests, waxing lyrical, talking sense. And look, if you're not following us on Instagram, please look us up and follow us. If you're not following us on YouTube, it'd be really helpful for you to subscribe to the channel so that we can communicate with you in the future and let you know when new episodes are coming out. And of course, it helps the algorithm if we have more followers and more interaction. So lots of likes, lots of interactions, lots of comments, as always, because that's the one thing I never, ever say until the very end. I've just done it again, haven't I? The more support you can offer us, I think the better this platform grows, agents movement grows, and the more we can help the agents that need that help. So thanks, guys. See you next week. Cheers.